think one of the weapons that is really used against us as a people is the verses, especially, I mean, the entire Bible, but especially in the New Testament, places like, if you do not forgive, then your Heavenly Father will not forgive you. And if you forgive, then the Heavenly Father who forgives all sins will also forgive you of your sins. So automatically, every time we are in a situation where our past is brought to light, we are too afraid not to really act the way we must act or express how we truly feel, because we are subconsciously Christians. And the first thing is forgive and forget. I mean, Ephesians talks about it. Ephesians says, and be kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, just as God, for the Messiah's sake, has forgiven you. So you constantly have a feeling of worthlessness, like you're not worth it. You don't deserve to express you're a sinner and you are forgiven. So how dare you hold anything against anybody? There are certain things that, yes, I'm a person that I forgive everything anybody does, but I never forget though. And you see, there's a difference between forgiving and forgetting, like what popularly everybody say, forgive and forget, and forgive but be mindful. And I'm on the verge of, or I'm on the side of forgiving but being mindful. I don't agree at all with this whole notion of you having to forgive and forget. Forget about it. It's gone. It's all in the past. It's back now. It's done with it. Listen, just forget it and move on. No, you cannot move on if you don't know what hit you. You cannot move on if you don't know what mistake you made. You cannot move on if you don't know what it is that you were dealing with that got you into the hole that you are in. You need to remember. It's your mandate to remember. You have to remember the past that is behind you, so you never find yourself going that same route again. I don't get it. Christians or Christianity made us look really dumb. We are about the only people on the face of the earth that keep forgetting. Everybody else remember. But when it gets to us, oh, you gotta forget. Oh, you gotta forget. Don't forget. Never forget. Never forget. Forgive and don't forget. Aquaba. It's Social Thursday. I'm here again with my reactions, and I'm here to I'm about to react to a couple of videos that I put together, and I think the truth of the matter is this was hard for me when I was watching it. I'm being honest, because majority of the time when we talk about slavery, the go-to place is Africa. The go-to place is coming back to the motherland and going to the castles and going to all these places and tracing back to your roots. But in as much as a lot of activity took place on the continent in Africa, I think the major ones took place not in Africa. In the sense that, yes, they took us away. Don't get me wrong, listen, I know we suffered as much as everybody else on the face of the earth. But I think the horrors that our brothers and sisters went through cannot be matched by anywhere else in the world. I don't think so, because regardless of what horror you are going through, if you are going through that horror in your own land, in your own home, speaking your own language, being called by your own name, it's a much different horror than when you are uprooted from one place to another place and you got no clue what the heck is going on. I don't know what I'm going to do to survive that. And I'm a very strong character. So I want to applaud our fathers and our ancestors that didn't give up and still gave hope to every single person living in the diaspora. I'm sincere. I pour a drink for every single one of them. Yana nano. Insani. Yedonasi. 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 I know today is not Spirit Friday, talk about libation and all of that, but when I was trying to research into this subject and put this video together, the sadness that gripped me was unexplainable. Knowing that our fathers and our uncles and our mothers and our aunties and our brothers and our sisters and cousins and nieces and nephews had to go through that across the Atlantic. Man. So today's video is a very passionate one, and I don't want to talk much. I honestly don't want to talk much, but I'm going to come in here and there just to comment or react to some of the things that are being said. But I don't know what's wrong with our people. I just don't know. It's either they don't know the story, or I'm trying to understand it. You don't remember? I'm not saying be bitter and be a sad looking person. No. That's not what I'm saying. But the rate at which we are, it's like we are looking for the approval of these people so we can be who we are. No, we don't need approval from them. I'm being honest. Like, it's like the minute these guys come out to say, oh, we are sorry for, no, he had me, he did this. What? A hack? You rejoicing over a hack? With what your ancestors had to go through? Oh, I feel we are all one now. There's no more hatred going on here. There's no more hatred going on. Do you know what they talk about in their secret meeting? Listen, I'm not raising up the stakes for anybody to push up hate to another dimension. But all that I'm saying is that they are horrible people. The things they did are horrible. And those things can never be forgiven. I'm not saying me, but do you think your ancestors would be in the next realm smiling and say, oh, it's all good now. Yeah, you butchered me, but it's all good now. You lynched me, but it's all good now. We're all friends now. It's all love now. I know I'm going ahead of myself, but some of the things that you hear will break your heart. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. Listen, let me check if I have any video, I have any comments on the... Yeah, I don't have a lot of comments. Let me address this quickly. I want to say thank you to you, Kojo, because you are a human, you are a humble man, recognizing that you come from a royal bloodline, a bloodline of leadership. It's in your DNA. People come to you to seek out the truth. It is in your bloodline, in your DNA. You have a kingdom, and the people in your kingdom are coming to you, just like your great-grandfather. A king don't have to fight for acknowledgement of who he is. He knows it. So receive the words when you're called the Messiah. Oh, I was confused. I'm like, where is this thing coming from? When you're called the Messiah, meaning the Savior, after all, it's in your bloodline, not just your DNA. Love you much. Love you too. Love you too. Bernard Boydie says, thank you very much. Thank you to Bernard. Listen, I don't think a lot of us are really into our health, the subject of our health. I will tell you this any day. If you don't take care of your health, this whole finding truth spirituality is useless. What are you going to do with it if you can't see, if your heart is failing? I said it yesterday, let me not go there. I am going to hate on your health till you start eating healthy, till you start living healthy, till you start going off certain things and only feeding on certain things, till you start aligning your body with your spirituality. I'm not going to stop. So whether people watch the health video or they don't watch the health videos, listen, I'm not here only to serve. Sorry about that. I'm not here only to serve your interest. What what tickles you, what makes you feel good. No. I'm here to tell you the absolute truth. I'm here to tell you what you need to know and what you must know. And whether you like it or not, you are going to love the Health Wednesday and you are going to take care of yourself. We cannot build a community. We cannot grow. We cannot establish what we are going to do if we don't make sure that our health is in a great place. Even when you go to the scriptures, those that were sick were kept out of the camps. They were living beyond borders, beyond the camps. So we don't want any sick link around us. We don't want people going with chicken heads, walking about. No. We're not having anything to do with you. You got to be healthy. You have got to take your health serious. When the subject of health comes, everybody, you got to take it serious. Your future depends on what you are putting in your mouth today. And this is real. This is killing than racism. Sicknesses and diseases are killing our people than racism. I'm being honest. So whilst we are marching on and facing this racist tyranny head on, we have got to also make sure that we take care of our health. So I'm going to say it every week. Whether you enjoy it, you don't enjoy it, I'm going to say it. It's my job to say it. And I will say it. Anyways, what am I doing? Let's take our first video today. And I'll come back and react to it in a bit.
What did you want to say today?
I wanted to say that, Mrs. Roper, Charlotte, I've met many families whose ancestors were enslaved by my family. I've apologized only to one of those families because I don't think that words are enough. I don't think they answer for the wound. They're like a Band-Aid on the wound. Still, I want to say that I'm sorry for the suffering that my family caused your family so many years ago and for such a long time. And in saying that, I know that we haven't reached the end of the journey. We haven't even come to the middle, but we might have just put our feet up on the path and taken the first small steps toward understanding. I ask your forgiveness.
Just like that, I asked for your forgiveness. And it's all happy go Sunday service. We all done. That's it. That's what makes me wonder if we don't remember. We don't remember the stories our fathers told us. Of course, I wasn't there, so of course I'm not going to remember. Somebody looking at me like, wait a minute, how old are you? You remember? No, I mean the stories our fathers told us. So he just say, and that's it. It's all forgiven. It's all gone. In fact, when I started watching these meetups, these slave owners and slaves, the children of slave owners and slaves coming together, and no, it's all good. It's all good. It pissed me off. I'm gonna be honest. It really pissed me off. It's all good. You think they done? You think that's it? You think they've done their worst? You think this is all they're gonna do? It's all good? Man.
So, Charlotte, what does it mean to you to have this apology?
It's overwhelming. It's deep within. I'm full. I live with racism every day. To hear that doesn't wash it away, but it says that someone recognizes what we go through when we walk out our doors. And it's overwhelming.
Oh, finally, somebody recognizes. Listen, I know the emotions my elder is sharing in the video, and I understand that. I understand the emotions. I mean, I can be in her shoes and honestly tell what she's going through or what she's dealing with. I share the emotional sentiments, but that's it. It's deep. Somebody remembers. You think they don't know what they're doing? You think they have no clue what time it is? Listen, till 2020, they know exactly the position the black man is, and they are excited about it because they are gaining, reaping the benefit every single day. You see the problem? This is why we got to work together. Because they're telling you, oh, it's all good over here, we're all good, but they're still in Africa, ripping off our land and stealing our resources. They're still doing it. Through some of these political leaders, of course. But they're still doing it. So when they say it's all good, listen, when you begin to research into him and to his family and try and find a job he is doing, this white dude is doing, man. Watch this. I believe we all know Ben Affleck. Watch this. Watch this from Ben Affleck.
Ben Affleck is sorry for trying to hide the fact that he had a slave-owning ancestor. In a posting on Facebook, Affleck expressed regret for getting PBS producers on the Finding Your Roots series to censor his ancestor's history as a slave owner. I didn't want any television show about my family to include a guy who owned slaves. I was embarrassed. The very thought left a bad taste in my mouth. I regret my initial thoughts that the issue of slavery not be included in the story. We deserve neither credit nor blame for our ancestors.
Wait. I said I was going to let it slide to the end before I come in, but we deserve no credit or blame. You see, sometimes when you hear some of these people talk, you wonder if they wake up on this planet, if we are still living on this planet, or maybe they woke up in another dimension and that is, you are not taking credit or to be blamed. The entire system around you is taking credit every single day. Your entire economy is taking credit every single day. Your entire science and technological dimensions or technological department are taking credit. So we don't take credit. You take credit every day. The stories you produce in your movies, you take credit in them every day. The narration we have in the schools, you take credit every day. You still teach children that Columbus discovered You take credit every day. We're not supposed to take credit or blame. Whilst you're taking the credit, you sure take the blame too. They were your fathers. I'm not trying to be a double standard here and say that the sins of the fathers should be passed on to the children. No, that's not what I'm saying. Let's judge the children by their character and by their attitude. Let's judge them. Let's judge the children. Not the fathers are dead and gone. Our fathers are dead. Let's judge the children. The brutality is not going on. Who is doing it? Is it still your grandfathers that are doing it? Not take the credit. These things. Listen.
Affleck just tweeted, "Lots of people have been asking who the guy was. His name was Benjamin Cole. Lived in Georgia on my mom's side about 6 generations back." But there may be more to this story. Inside Edition found another slave owner in Affleck's past. It appears to be his uncle from 10 generations ago, Ebenezer Strong Jr., who died in 1729. And there's this excerpt from the Affleck family tree. His Negro boy was appraised at 80 pounds. He gives and bequeaths to his well-beloved wife Elizabeth his Indian slave Boston, alias George, to her. Affleck, who stars in the upcoming Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice movie, went on to say how he persuaded the host of the series, famed Harvard professor Henry Louis Gates Jr., to drop the slave history detail. "I lobbied him the same way I lobbied directors about what takes of mine I think they should use." Affleck, one of Hollywood's leading liberal activists, concluded, "While I don't like that the guy is an ancestor, I am happy that aspect of our country's history is being talked about."
Listen, I don't want to talk about Ben Affleck. Let's move on.
The people of Marksville threw a celebration to mark the visit of 5 descendants of 12 years a slave author Solomon Northup.
To see that how people are singing praises. Hallelujah! Hallelujah! Singing praises. The white man is smiling in our faces. We are friends now. They love us now. Who cares about their love? You are who you are. You don't need anybody's accreditation. You don't need anybody's approval. You don't need anybody's love. You are complete. You are whole. You are full. You are love. You are the epiphany of love. You are the totality of what love is. You are love. You don't need love from anybody. So when I see people, oh, we don't have hate now. There's all love. We're hugging each other now. You hugging? How many of your sons and daughters are shot down in broad daylight? You hugging? I guess you hugging with bullets to your vest, to your chest. I'm rhyming now. Ooh, don't mind me. I'm pissed. We gotta wake up. See what Christianity has made us? This is what Christianity has made us. Making us act crazy. We've got to wake up. Let me just watch the rest of the video.
Northup descendant Evelyn Jackson was thrilled by the warm reception.
If Solomon could look down and see now, there is no hatred.
I'm trying to do it, but if Solomon could look down, there is no hatred. Who's told you? If Solomon can look down and see now, there is no hatred. There's no what? What's wrong with this? What is wrong with this? You think they love you? Because they're showing up. Do you think they love you? The only person that can really, really ever love you is your brother and your sister. I'm not talking about the sick ones that keep killing each other. I'm not talking about the sick ones that they've been poisoned to see their brother as their enemy. No, I'm talking about real love from your real brother, your real African brother, African sister. Real love. That's all the love you need. They would always hate you. Do you know why? Because they can never beat you. If they could beat you, then probably they will consider loving you. But they will always hate you. Always.
There is no hatred. I got so many people hugging me. You see that? Hugging me and congratulating me. I'm at all.
Listen, let's watch.
Some Northup descendants are of mixed racial heritage.
I didn't even know I had white cousins. I have white cousins. So I was learning more, and we're all come together as one.
I didn't know I had white cousins. I have white cousins. Look at me now. I have white cousins. I have white cousins. I have white. What's wrong with this? What is wrong with this? You have white what? You have white what? Do you know what that means? That means your great-great-grandmother was raped. Is that something to smile about? I'm trying not to react.
And we're all come together as one.
Jackson and other descendants came here for the launch of an app for smartphones that helps visitors find various sites on Louisiana's Solomon Northup Trail, like this old graveyard where some of the slave masters are buried.
This is my cousin Rebecca.
Hi, nice to meet you,
Nice to meet you.
Rodney White is a descendant of a large local family that once owned slaves. He shared some of his family research with Jackson and other Northup descendants. One man identified with the evil of slavery was Edwin Epps, who once owned this land. These fields in central Louisiana on the former Epps plantation were the scene of terrible cruelty, according to Solomon Northup's account. For Leon Holmes, who visited this restored house that Northup helped build for Epps, the legacy of racial distrust is almost too great to overcome.
Nah, race will be here forever. The race issues, I feel as if it's almost something you're not going to.
You are, years later, generations later, connecting. How has this changed you?
Well, actually, this is who I am, okay? I will never and have never treated somebody differently or with lack of respect.
I wish I could just knock him right now. No comment. I just wish I could knock him right now. Just give him an ancestor slap. African ancestor slap. Pow! Wake up! That's all. That's it. Wake up. Pow! Wake up! Mm-hmm. You don't know that? Our fathers, they'll slap you with both hands at the same time. You would definitely wake up after that double slap. I've got no problem. I've treated nobody. What's wrong with this? Christianity. Hill. Chris Hill. Christianity. No, that's not Chris Hill. This other guy. He's a preacher. Christianity. I have no real. He's a descendant of the. He's a descendant. Have you met what? What would you have done? Listen, I would wish to be in front of this brother and ask him, what if you had met his grandfather or grandparent? What would you have done? Nothing. That's what you've done.
James Adams, Joel Roberts.
Nothing.
Joel
That
Adams.
is what exactly you would have done. Nothing. Just as you're doing nothing now. See, I've got no problem with him. He's good. I've got no problem with him. That's the problem. That's the sickness right there. I'm not saying go off and fight everybody. But the statement of I treat everybody the same, they don't treat you the same. That is the problem. If they were treating you the same, I wouldn't have a problem you treating them the same. But they don't treat you the same. I promised I wasn't going to talk much today. But they don't treat you the same. Come on. Let's just get to know each other. Let's just get to know each other. Let's just get to... You will never know him. Let's just get to know each other.
I don't want anybody judging me based on my zip code or the way I look or where I, or you know, who I am. So although I can't control how they treat me, I can always control how I treat other people.
That's right.
So my thing with him was like, let's just get to know each other.
Let me tell you why my soul cries. Let me tell you why my soul cries right now, not even in sorrow, but in happiness. I wonder how America would be if we really had an honest conversation about how we're really related and connected from the founding fathers of Thomas Jefferson all the way down, that we're really one family.
You now have
and this
opportunity
would really be an
to have a
incredible
friendship.
moment.
This
is just awesome.
See how they be making me talk crazy right now? I look like a comedian right now.
Come together. This is beautiful.
And I didn't put
This
this
is
on
what's about
Facebook to be in Los Angeles
listen,
on you guys.
and this is not, I'm not just bashing some of the brothers and sisters in the diaspora. I would react to some of the ways that our brothers and sisters also act on this continent as well. I would do that reaction. Didn't I tell you they all preachers? Christianity. This is what Christianity will do to you. For those who think that is the end of the story, you think that is it, they are done? You think they are done? No, they are not done. They're meeting in places, big boardrooms, secret places, court meetings, planning your demise. They're constantly plotting and planning ways and means they can wipe you out. They're wiping brothers and sisters out on the continent, coming with contraceptives. Why do you think it's only the black woman who has fibroid? They'll try to wipe you out and you there saying, oh, I got no problem. I'm just seeing this as a conversation with a cousin. Cousin. They're killing you. Cousin. They want to see you dead. Cousin. They want to wipe you off of the face of the earth. Cousin. They want to take over your continent. Cousin. They want to deplete your continent of all its resources. Cousin. Watch this video.
Africans have benefited from their experience with white supremacy. And we just have to look at the
Really? I'm just going to leave that out there. I'm just going to leave that out. You know, that is not even worth challenging.
Africans benefited from the experience of white supremacy. We benefited from the experience of white supremacy. We benefited. Where are the bishops and the pastors that were coming together saying that we're cousins now? Let's have I wish we would just have a decent conversation, an open conversation to tell how we really feel. This is how they really feel. This is how they really feel about you. Go have an open conversation with that. Go have an open conversation with that. This is how they feel about you. Have an open conversation with them. Just when I saw the introduction, it's on my Facebook, YouTube, Twitter account. It's on my Facebook, Instagram, Twitter account. I couldn't resist. I couldn't wait till the evening. I just had to post it there. Wait till they get you right where they need you to be. Wait till they get you right where they need you to be. Then you will know if they are cousins. You think they are done with you? You think they are done?
Well, I'm quite conflicted about interviewing Richard Spencer. He's the leader of what they call the alt-right, which I think is a new word for fascism. And ordinarily giving someone like that oxygen is something I think journalists shouldn't do. But here's the difference. Spencer and people like him credit themselves with providing the intellectual underpinnings for the Trump revolution, and I fear they might be right. This is a group of people with very dangerous ideas. Richard, how do you do?
So are you the interviewer?
I'm the interviewer. I'm
Okay,
Gary
great.
Young.
Good to
Yes.
see you.
Nice to see you.
Look at the average life of an African American in the United States. It's far better than any African living in Africa.
Really? So slavery was good for them?
Look, they benefited from being in a different nation than their own, no doubt.
Really?
No doubt. How can you deny that?
Sorry?
How can you deny such
It's
an obvious
such
fact?
a ridiculous notion.
How is it ridiculous?
It's such a
How is it
ridiculous notion
ridiculous?
that people forcibly removed from their homes and taken to this country to work for nothing for a couple of centuries, that benefited them. Have you ever for a second considered that if they were able to stay in the countries where they were born and lived and weren't forcibly removed, that those continents might be in a better state now?
I seriously doubt that.
To what extent do you feel that Trump shares your viewpoints?
I don't think he shares the ideal of the ethno-state. I don't think he shares my conscious thinking about race or the conscious thinking about race of most people in this building. But does he have nationalist feelings? I think that's clear. I mean, he wouldn't have run the campaign that he ran if he didn't feel some sense of loss. We are losing our nations here in the United States, in Britain, across the world.
I'm not losing my nation. I'm British.
You're not using your nation because you're winning this demographic battle.
What am I winning? I'm living in the pace of my birth, just like you.
But that's not really your home.
You don't get to tell me where my home is.
But you know that that's not your real home.
Please don't tell me. Please don't tell me what I know.
Didn't build it.
Sorry? Listen, my ancestors built it tenfold and weren't paid for it.
Look, it's like saying that
you could have enslaved someone else.
It's like saying African Americans built the United States. Like
they did.
But
they literally built the White House
because we made them do it.
And you're proud of that.
You're
proud of that.
Well, it's had bad consequences, but the fact is, yes, I am ultimately proud of it.
You're proud of slavery.
I'm ultimately proud of my ancestors because
you're proud of slavery.
I embrace all of it. You'll never be an Englishman.
You don't get to tell me what I will be.
Because my name's Richard Spencer. So
my name's Richard Spencer, and I approve this message.
Yes, and so therefore I actually do get to tell you that you're not an Englishman.
You don't get to tell me anything. You're a ridiculous
You don't even know.
The interview's over. You've got nothing to say. I was looking for someone who could give some intellectual ballast to what's going on in this country in terms of race and in terms of white people, but I found the wrong guy. Because you don't know what you're talking about.
Did you see the laugh on his face? His laugh is like, you can do nothing. We're still doing this. We don't care about you. We are going to kill you if we have to. We are going to wipe you off the face of the earth if we don't care. You should be thankful to us. You should be thankful to us. We made you who you made me. You made us. You made us. We made you. Listen, you're going to love what I do next. I'm going to react to something next week. We made you. You didn't make us. We made you. And listen, this brings me right into this couple of videos that I'm not going to talk. I'm just going to show you these couple of videos. Wake up. You cannot watch these videos and still think they love you. You cannot. And if you think you go through this video and think it's all good now, you should hold on till I show you my last two videos. You think it's all good now? You think? Hold on till I show you my last two videos.
John Henry Falk may have experienced the most profound effect. He was a graduate student when he interviewed the former slaves, including the two women you hear in this broadcast. Himself interviewed just before he died in 1979, Falk was going on about how he believed in giving blacks the right to go to school. giving them the right to vote, giving them the right to go into anything they qualified for. And then he said he experienced an epiphany.
I was sitting out on a wagon tongue with this old black man, and was telling him what a different kind of white man I was. I remember him looking at me very sadly and kind of sweetly and condescending and said, "You know, you still got the disease, honey. I know you think you're cured, but you're not cured. You can't give me the right to be a human being. I'm born with that right. Now, you can keep me from having that. If you've got all the policemen and all the jobs on your side, you can deprive me of it. But you can't give it to me, because I was born with it just like you was." And my God, it had a profound effect on me. I was furious with him. But the more I reflected on it, the more profoundly it affected me. And I realized this was where it really was.
Tell you the truth, when I think of it today, I don't know how I'm living.
I remember that just as well look like to me I can.
Been slaves all our lives. My mother was a slave, my sister was a slave, father was a slave.
They know nothing about reading right. All that I know, they teach you to mind your master and your missus. Mom and them didn't know where to go. You see, after she would go, just like you turned something out, you know, didn't know where to go.
They are haunting voices from the past, not actors reading a script or scholars reading a text, but the actual voices of men and women, Americans, who were born in slavery.
My name is Fountain Hughes. I was born in Charlottesville, Virginia. My grandfather belonged to Thomas Jefferson. My grandfather was 115 years old when he died. And now I am 101 years old. A lot of people didn't have no beds when they were slaves. You all slept on the floor. Sat up here, sat up there. Just like a lot of wild people. We didn't know nothing. Didn't like to look at no book.
Harriet Smith, remembering what she saw as a small girl during the final days of the Civil War.
We stood on that picket fence all day long, seeing them soldiers going back to San Antonio and different places. Colored soldiers in droves. That's right along by our house. Our home is a two-story house, a white house.
These recorded memories were among thousands of interviews done with ex-slaves in the 1930s and 40s.
Can you remember slavery days very well?
Of course, I remember all our white folks, and all the names of them, all the children. Call every one of the children's names.
Who did you belong to?
Jim Bunton, the baby boy.
The results of these digitally enhanced recordings are arresting, almost unbelievable. The idea of hearing the voices of actual slaves from the plantations of the Old South is as powerful, as startling really, as if you could hear Abraham Lincoln or Robert E. Lee speak. Listen again to Fountain Hughes, who was born in 1848.
We were slaves. We belonged to people. They sell us like they sell horses and cows and hogs and all like that. Have an auction bench, and they put you up on the bench and bid on you, the same as bidding on cattle, you know.
Much of what these three former slaves say may at first seem unremarkable. Much of what they say may surprise and upset, and their calm demeanor is at odds with the evil and violence we associate with slavery. Here is 91-year-old Texan Laura Smalley talking in the 1940s about the outcome of a tussle between two women, one black, one white, one slave, one mistress. The mistress tried to slap the slave, but the black woman pushed her into a chair. Laura Smalley was a girl at the time, but she remembers vividly what happened to the black woman when the master came home.
Well, they taken that old woman, poor old woman, carried in the peach orchard and whipped her. And, you know, just tied her hand this way, you know, around the peach orchard tree. I remember that just as well, looked like to me I can, and round the tree and whipped her. And, well, she couldn't do nothing but just kick her feet, you know, just kick her feet. But it just had her clothes off down to her waist, you know. Just didn't have her plumb naked, but they had her clothes down to her waist. And every now and then they'd football, you know, and then snuff the pipe out on her, you know. Snuff the pipe out on her. You know, the embers in the pipe. I don't know where you ever see the pipe smoking.
Blow them out on her?
Mm-hmm.
Good Lord, have mercy.
The plantation on which Smalley was a slave sounds brutal. She recalls scrambling with other children for food from a huge wooden tray, like a hog trough.
All of them, you know, would get around that tray with spoons and eat, such like mush or soup or something like that. And all them children get around there and just eat.
Fountain Hughes tells his interviewer about the relentless round of work for him on a Virginia plantation.
Night never comes out. You have nothing to do. Time to cut tobacco. If they want you to cut all night long out in the field, you cut. And if they want you to hang all night long, you hang tobacco. It didn't matter about your tired, being tired, you're afraid to say you're tired.
It was cotton, not tobacco, that solidified slavery, though. The invention of the cotton gin at the end of the 18th century made its processing easy, but the crop still needed enormous amounts of unskilled labor. Control of the slave and his labor through laws and regulations became paramount. Fountain Hughes talks about one of those controls, the pass system.
Now, I couldn't go from here across the street, or I couldn't go to nobody's house without I have a note or something from my master. And if I had that pass, that was what we call a pass. If I had that pass, I could go wherever he sent me, and I'd have to be back. You know, whoever he sent me to, they'd give me another pass, and I'd bring that back, so it's to show how long.
Even emancipation didn't truly free the slaves. Freedom freed slaves for more travail. The end of the Civil War found many cast adrift without skills and no place to go. And the Yankees who freed them weren't always seen as benevolent liberators.
I remember when the Yankees come along and took all the good horses and took sold all the meat and flour and sugar and stuff out in the river and let it go down the river. And they know the people wouldn't have nothing to live on, but they done that.
The ex-slaves left one hell for another, perhaps an even more dangerous one. No longer property, they didn't have the protections afforded property.
When we were slaves, we couldn't do that, see? And if we got free, we didn't know nothing to do. And my mother, she hunted places and bound us out for $1 a month. But we didn't have no property, we didn't have no home. We had nowhere, nothing. We didn't have nothing on it, just like the cattle, we just turned out and get along the best you could.
In Texas, the slaves weren't told they were free until 2 months after the war ended. Smalley remembers that her masters gave the slaves a dinner, and then they were free.
I don't hide the other side of the folks know freedom. We didn't know. They just thought, we're just feeding us, Them didn't know where to go. You see, after freedom broke, just like he turned something out, Didn't know where to go. But just where to stay. Didn't know where to go. Turn us out just like, you turn out cattle.
In the narratives, the slaves used an interesting phrase for the end of slavery. They say, when the break came. Good times, easy times were not at hand. The trials for millions of black Americans didn't end in 1865. They continued. Laura Smalley and her family became sharecroppers. Harriet Smith's first husband was killed by whites during the Reconstruction, probably because of his political organizing. Fountain Hughes went north to Baltimore and worked at numerous jobs, including hauling manure. Not an enviable job, but it was the job of a free man.
First museum in America dedicated entirely to slavery opened just a few months ago. Michelle Miller traveled to Wallace, Louisiana, and found a surprising history, not just about a plantation, but her own family. Michelle, good morning.
Good morning. Well, about an hour's drive from New Orleans along the Mississippi River sits a Civil War-era sugarcane plantation. The Whitney Plantation looms as a stark reminder that our nation was built on the backs of slaves. It's a tough part of our history to remember, but one man is investing a fortune to bring it all back to life. This house is full of secrets.
They would sleep on pallets on the floors.
Beneath whitewashed ceilings, through quiet gardens, a dark history unfolds. Tourists peer into cages where slaves were beaten. Statues of black children stare back at them. In this sanctuary, memorializing the harsh reality of slavery, one figure seems out of place.
Good to see you.
77-year-old John Cummings.
Most people operate on ready, aim, fire, and I always operate on ready, fire, and an aim.
16 years ago, the New Orleans native and millionaire trial lawyer jumped at the chance to buy this 250-acre plantation without really knowing what he was getting into. What didn't you know?
And I got to the slave part, and I saw some of the inventories from Successions, and I was looking, man, 40 people just traded like cattle. And so then I discovered the oral histories, and that's when the light went on.
I got something here.
Well, I've got a great injustice here.
Cummings decided to dedicate the entire plantation to the slave perspective. He spent $8 million of his own money collecting antiques and commissioning art. The vacant Whitney started coming back to life.
I tell people when they say, well, why is a white man involved in this? I'll say, well, don't you remember it was a white man who caused all of this?
Here we honor the memory of 107,000 people.
To give it a voice, Cummings hired Senegalese historian Dr. Ibrahim Seck.
It is just amazing how these people...
Seck culled diaries and inventories from auction and estate sales. He found more than 100,000 names of slaves traded and sold through the Louisiana Territory. Each name is etched into these walls.
There is no order, just like it was total confusion, just like the lives of the slaves. You see, you have African names, French names, Spanish names.
Next to those names are the narratives of the slaves themselves.
Doesn't mean much, but we make them talk. It is just a way for us to give them a voice, because these people were voiceless people.
One of the voiceless, the powerless, was a slave girl named Anna who had a child named Victor. Victor was born a slave, but the records show he is the son of her white slave owner's brother. Victor's great-granddaughter is 82-year-old Sybil Morial.
We didn't talk about it.
Were they trying to save you from
I don't know if it was shame, or maybe they were trying to save us. They didn't want to inflict that sad story on us. But it was sort of affirmed that my slavery ancestry was real, and it was only 3 generations ago.
Morial only recently learned of her direct lineage, of her connection to the Whitney, and of Victor's legacy beyond slavery.
He bought land and farmed it, so he overcame that life. And then the next generation did better, and the next generation did better, and then it's my generation, educated, successful.
Morial was a civil rights worker, a college vice president, and the first black first lady of New Orleans. But I already knew that. I married her son, Mark. But how did you feel after you brought all of us together here?
I felt that I had given you, my family, the ancestry in color.
So my children now know.
They now know.
They're great grandmother
was an African slave.
Knowing can be freeing, but most often here, it is painful. One of the last sights are these sculpted heads, replicas of 60 men beheaded for their role in a local slave revolt more than 200 years ago. But Cummings wants people to realize we aren't that far removed.
You look at the paper and you'll see that some militant group has decapitated a French journalist. And we all wonder what kind of barbarians could do that. We did that. Americans, we did that. Americans with white skin, we did that.
Do you feel guilty?
No, only if I don't do what I'm doing right now. Over half of the people who come in here cry, and I cry.
You still cry?
I do. And proud of it. It affects me. The injustice is there. You really can't do anything about it to change it. But maybe you can change some of the effects of it. And that's what I think I'm doing.
Just accepting that history can do that?
Owning it.
The Whitney plantation is a sacred ground. So many people suffered here. I will share with you the history of the plantation. People who lived here and who were enslaved, who they were, where they came from, the contribution of these people, not only to the building of wealth, but also to the making of the culture and American identity at large. Can you ring that bell here?
Can I?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm not gonna break it, am I?
No, pull it. It is a way to pay homage to the people who suffered here, but also to remind people that this was the clock on the plantation. Now we can go and see the Wall of Honor. And this is a place where we honor the memories of all the people who were enslaved on this plantation. On one side of the wall, we'll have people mostly born in Africa. On the other side, we have people mostly born in the United States. The slave codes, starting with the French, was really harsh on the runaway slaves. You run away for the first time, they catch you, they would brand you on one shoulder with the fleur-de-lis, the old French flag, and then they crop your ears, they cut your ears. Second offense, they brand you on the second shoulder with the fleur-de-lis, and then they cut your hamstring. You know
Cut
what
the muscle.
Yeah, they cut it. You cannot run anymore. And if by any chance you crawl away again, they cut your head. It is the death sentence.
Wow.
So slavery was a very, very violent institution. It was about a lot of pain inflicted to the flesh of the enslaved people in order to tame them. This is a much larger memorial. We call it the Gonley Midler Hall Allays. This guy here is being punished, and you see this is the master.
Yes.
Yeah? And who's holding the whip?
A slave.
A slave. It was a system of divide and conquer. That's why they say that there was a lot of hatred between like the field hands and the domestics.
Right.
And between the field hands and the slave drivers. But I'm telling you, in time of revolution, they all get together. This is what we call the Field of Angels, a memorial dedicated to children who died in slavery. In the middle of this field, we have a statue. It's about an angel with like black and female features coming down on a plantation to take a dead baby to heaven. Every day, the people were taken to the field to work. Even mothers with nursing babies. But you see here, you have young ladies giving the breast to their children, because they were allowed to get back to the quarters twice a day to give the breast to their children. Is that enough? Just twice?
No.
In the day? No. This one is about the Middle Passage from Africa. You see, these people are caught like in a vortex.
Yes.
You see hands sticking out with shackles. They are drowning, asking for rescue that never came. And this one to the left, this is the celebration of freedom.
This is so powerful.
Yeah. These two slave cabins, they are original to the grounds of the Whitney plantation.
And how old is this building?
I suspect that they date back to the early 19th century. I hate going in there. I'm not going in there. It was my pleasure to take you through this.
Thank
It is
you
not.
very
It is
much.
not a pleasant story, but we have to tell it. We have to tell the story of slavery.
Yes, sir. Definitely. Thank you so much, Dr. Spock.
This country will be greater. It has been already great, but it will be greater if they decide to solve the problem of the African Americans. They may tame the flesh, but they never were able to tame the spirit. It is not just about the history of pain inflicted to the enslaved people. It is also about the tremendous contribution to the culture.
When you think about the horrors that our fathers had to go through, and yet it's so difficult for our brothers and sisters to wake up. They are so stuck in their Christianity. They're so stuck in their indoctrination, in their education. They're so stuck in everything they gave you, forgetting the fact that the reason why they gave you all these things is because they needed you to think exactly the way you are thinking today. They needed you to behave and think and act exactly like how you are thinking today. You think slavery was abolished because they just was tired of it? Or they just felt, all of a sudden they felt like this is the right thing to do. We've done enough. We've done the worst. This is the right thing to do. No. You just heard it. All the American presidents were all slave owners. They were all slave owners. From Thomas Jefferson to all of them, they were all slave owners. All across the European places. In the UK, I heard they were still paying slave owners with the taxpayers' money. They were still, and you think they are done with you? You think it's all good now? Listen, I'm not going to talk again. I'm leaving you with these last two videos. And I'm not saying pick up a gun and go and shoot anybody. That is a dumb way to handle this. That is shooting, killing, putting knife through each other. That is a dumb way of doing this. So that's not what I'm telling you to do. And that is why I love the Zoom community. Because on the Zoom, we can see a lot of things. But here, we can't say them. We can't say them here. We've got a plan. Listen, the fathers, the spirit of our fathers has a plan. They've told me this plan. They've showed me this plan. We are going to win. We are going to win at the end of the day. I love you guys. I leave you with these last two videos. I'll see you tomorrow on Spirit Friday. Take care.
Tell us about the bailout of the slave owners.
So one of the things often when we're talking about empire, we talk about slavery. And one of the first things then is how Britain abolished the slave trade. And it's like, yes, Britain did abolish the slave trade, but after about 200 years of profiting from it. And the profits from the slave trade didn't end with the end of the slave trade, because the only reason slave owners in Britain agreed to the abolition of the slave trade was because they would be compensated. So just to underline, it wasn't the people who had been enslaved who were compensated for their loss of liberty. It was the British slave owners, people who owned other people, who were compensated. And they were compensated to a tune of £20 million in 1833. That's the equivalent of £17 billion today, which, to put it another way, is 40% of GDP.
40% of GDP
40% of GDP then
was 20 million.
Was 20 million.
So 40% of our total national
Yes.
income went in compensation.
And there wasn't enough money in the country to pay people. And so what the government did was raise bonds. So those bonds were raised, the slave owners were paid. And we, that is British taxpayers, both in Britain and the colonies, only finished off paying that bond in 2015. So if you've paid tax prior to 2015, you have paid compensation to people who owned other people.
Do you know what's mad? But I don't think a lot of British people actually know this. The UK only abolished slavery in 1833 because they agreed to pay slave owners for loss of property. That was a sum of £20 million, which today would equal £300 billion. £300 billion to slave owners. The debt was so big that it was only paid off in 2015, which means most UK taxpayers have contributed to that bill. So obviously all the slave owners from 1833 are all dead, so our tax wasn't physically going to them. But when the UK initially passed the bill, they didn't have the money to reimburse the slave owners. So they had to take out a government loan, which we've been paying back. It took 182 years to pay back that loan. And I'm mad as hell that that is where some of my tax was going.